I know the art of disguise, which is strictly forbidden by the imperial court. Only my husband knows about this. In my previous life, to save the woman he loved, he knelt and begged me to change the face of his white moonlight, who was wanted city-wide. I risked the capital crime of execution and performed the secret art, but he turned around and reported me to the imperial court, using my head to pave his path to success. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he tearfully begged me. Qingcheng Wanner and her fiancé are being wanted city-wide. This time, I smiled and agreed. Overnight, I sculpted him into the likeness of the male criminal on the wanted poster. Before my head fell, the last thing I saw was Shen Wenyuan and Lin Wanner exchanging smiles behind the crowd. He even raised his hand and gently tidied the stray hairs at her temple for her. The words that had been churning in my throat for a long time. Shen Wenyuan, may you die a horrible death. Finally fell silent as the executioner's blade flashed. My lady, are you awake? I abruptly opened my eyes. Not dead. Me trembling fingers touched my neck. The skin was intact, my head still attached. The young master has brought a young lady back, saying he has an urgent matter to ask of you. They are waiting in the flower hall. The maid's voice came from behind the gauze curtain. I suddenly sat up and rushed to the dressing table. The bronze mirror reflected a picturesque face, still with a hint of sleepiness. This is me, Gu Qingcheng, married into the Shen family for 3 years, not yet sent to the execution ground. I took a deep breath and slowly pulled a smile at the mirror. Shen Wenyuan Lin Wanner, I, Gu Qingcheng, have returned. Inside the flower hall, Shen Wenyuan was still putting on that air of a gentle and refined gentleman, seeing me enter. He immediately came forward. Qingcheng, were you woken up by the noise? You look a bit pale. As he spoke, that familiar hand reached for my forehead again. I turned to the side, avoiding his touch. It is nothing. Perhaps I just didn't sleep well last night. My gaze swept past his shoulder and landed on that figure in plain white. Lin Wanner raised her head at that exact moment, tears already streaming down her face before she could speak, and with a thud, she fell to her knees. I beg you, madam, please save Wanner. Shen Wenyuan immediately chimed in, his words earnest. Qingcheng, this Miss Lin's father once saved my life. Now she has been implicated by her fiancé, and both of them are on the wanted posters. I, your husband, have thought it over and over, and only your art of disguise can save her life. A cold sneer churned in the depths of my heart. In my last life, it was this same speech that made me believe that bullshit about a life-saving grace, making me risk a capital offense to use the secret technique. And the result, Lin Wanner lived a carefree and happy life with her new face. Shen Wenyuan, however, traded my head for a glorious future and lived a blissful life with his benefactor's daughter. Seeing my silence, Shen Wenyuan stepped forward and took my hand. His voice softened a few notches again. I know this matter is perilous, but my benefactor died for me. How can I just watch his only flesh and blood go to their death? Just do it for my sake. Help one more time. All right, after this is over, we'll leave the capital city. I'll take you to travel all over the misty rains of Jiangyan. See all the sights of the northern frontier, just the two of us. I looked up into his eyes, which were full of deep affection, and let a hint of struggle show on my face at the right moment. I gently pulled my hand back and sighed. Husband, do you know, if this matter is exposed, it will mean eternal damnation? It absolutely won't be, he said decisively. Heaven knows, the earth knows, you know, I know, and Wanner knows. There will absolutely not be a fourth person who knows. Seeing his oath-swearing look, I finally relented. All right, I'll try. Ecstasy burst forth in Shen Wenyuan's eyes, just as he was about to reach out and pull me into his arms. I had already turned sideways to pick up a teacup. Disguising requires a few special medicinal herbs. I have to go to the storehouse to prepare them myself. And I specifically admonished, The matter of Miss Lin being in the manor must not be leaked. As I passed by Lin Wander's side, I paused my steps slightly. Rest assured, miss, since my husband has asked, I will certainly do my best. Amid her grateful kowtows, I departed gracefully, holding the empty cup. The teacup was slightly hot in my hand. This time, I will let you all know what true eternal damnation is. I walked back to the rear courtyard gracefully, holding the teacup. The moment the door closed, all the meekness on my face vanished. He spread the paper and ground the ink, and as his brush moved like dragons and snakes, a list of medicinal herbs was already written. These few supplementary ingredients are indeed rare, which gives me a legitimate reason to go out. Young K. My personal maid entered at my call. I handed her the list. Go tell the young master that I am going to Baikatown myself to get the medicine prepared, and that he shouldn't worry, as expected. Shen Wenyan readily agreed, and even pretended to be thoughtful by asking if I wanted 2 young servants to go with me. That won't be necessary, I refused softly. I am just going to the apothecary. Having more people around would be inconvenient and attract prying eyes. As the carriage reached the street corner, I ordered it to stop. I was in Baikao Hall for less than the time it takes to drink half a cup of tea. Yet I slipped out quietly through the back door. I twisted and turned through the alleys, and after confirming there were no more tails behind me, I ducked into a dark alley. Based on the fragmented memories of my past life and the holes in Lin Wanner's words, I finally found the dilapidated city god temple in the west of the city. This is the place. Lin Wanner had unintentionally revealed that her framed fiancé Fei Zhao Ming ended up hiding here. Inside the temple, cobwebs hung down, and dust was everywhere. I held my breath and focused, my gaze sweeping over every corner. In the shadows behind the dilapidated statue, sure enough, I found a corner of cloth stained with dark red blood, and next to it were a few messy, fresh footprints. Who? A wary shout came from the rafters. I looked up and met that pair of eyes, sharp as a hawk's even in the dim light. His face was smudged with dirt, and the wound on his shoulder was still oozing blood, but his back remained perfectly straight. Zhao Ming, seeing this face again, my heart was filled with a mix of emotions. Zhao Ming, I asked tentatively in a low voice. He tensed up instantly, his right hand already resting on the short blade at his waist. Relax, I softened my voice, holding my hands out to show I meant no harm. I am not here to capture you. I looked straight into his guarded eyes. I know you were framed by Lin Wanner. I also know that she'll soon reinvent herself, push all the blame onto you, and make you the scapegoat. His gaze sharpened. Who are you? How do you know all this? And what do you want with me? I am the one who can stop her. I took half a step forward. I am here to help you. He was still wary. Why would you help me? Because Lin Wanner and the people behind her want me dead too. Why should I believe you? Isn't this just another trap? The doubt in his eyes hadn't faded, which was perfectly reasonable. A strange woman suddenly appearing, claiming to know the inside story and wanting to help him, was too abrupt. I calmly threw out a fact that was about to happen. Tomorrow at noon, there will be a sudden downpour, and the downpour will last for an hour. You can verify whether my words are credible. Seeing the skeptical look on his face, I turned to leave. When I reached the temple gate, I stopped and looked back. If it comes true, I'll be back tomorrow afternoon for your answer. On the way back to the manor, memories of my past life surged into my mind. The death row cell had no windows, only a sliver of faint light leaking down from a crack in the stone overhead. When I was thrown in, my heart full of hatred turned into a hoarse scream. Shen Wen Yuan Lin Wanner, may you die a horrible death. The sound of suppressed coughing was always coming from the cell next door. Until one time when the jailer delivered food, I caught a glimpse of the person in the next cell's side profile by the dim yellow light. Although he was filthy and covered in wounds, I recognized him at a glance. He looked exactly like Lin Wanner's fiancé from the wanted poster. Perhaps because he was coughing so terribly, I finally couldn't help but warn him through the wall. If it is an internal injury, press 3 inches below your ribs when you cough. Inhale slowly and exhale sharply to protect your heart. The sound of coughing stopped abruptly. A moment later, that gentle voice sounded. "Thank you, Miss Gu." I froze. How did you know my surname is Gu? 3 days ago, Lin Wanner came to the prison to visit me. At that time, she already had a completely unfamiliar face. She said this was all thanks to the wonderful disguise technique of Wen Yuan's good wife, that Lady Gu will be going down to accompany you very soon. She said it herself, you as a couple, one devising the plan, the other personally performing the technique, are truly a match made in heaven. Even though I had long known this cruel truth, hearing it now with my own ears was still like a basin of ice water being poured over my head, freezing my limbs and bones until they lost all warmth. That night, I came down with a high fever, curled up in a pile of straw and shivering uncontrollably. In my daze, an ice-cold liquid flowed to my hand. I struggled to open my eyes, only to see a small puddle of clear water slowly seeping in from an inconspicuous crack at the base of the stone wall. An apologetic voice came from next door. "This is the only way, miss. Please don't mind. It is good to at least moisten your lips." The water had an earthy smell, but it was exceptionally sweet. From then on, we often had long talks through the wall late at night. One time, he started talking about his life story. He came from a poor background and now has no relatives left in the world. He had traveled 1,000 li to the capital this time, originally to fight for a future in the spring imperial examination. Unexpectedly, at a poetry gathering, he happened to meet Lin Wanner. Back then, she pretended to be a talented lady in distress, saying she was being forced into marriage by a local bully and begged me to take her in. I saw that her speech was refined, and she was well versed in poetry and literature, so I believed her story. Who would have known? It was all an elaborately designed trap. I once asked him, "Don't you hate her?" There was a long silence from the other side of the wall. "I do, but I hate myself more for being so quick to trust people." When I was first imprisoned, I went on a hunger strike to show my resolve. But what I got in return was even more brutal torture. I tried to bribe the jailers to pass a message, but they were watched too closely, and the risk was enormous. Later, I discovered the stone wall wasn't indestructible, so I hid a bone fragment and scraped at it day and night. Even if I could only loosen one brick, maybe I could still leave behind a shred of evidence. I remembered that continuous scraping sound. It was him trying to carve number on the stone wall, to record the injustice 3 days before the execution. The jailers deliberately gave him a hard time, not bringing water for the whole day. My lips were chapped and bleeding, my consciousness hazy. Late at night, more violent coughing and shuffling sounds came from next door. Then, a little bit of clear water slowly seeped over from under the crack in the stone again, even less and slower than last time. The water seemed to be mixed with a faint smell of blood. "I, Zhao, am incompetent. This is all I can do." His voice was even hoarser than usual, his breath weak. Later, I found out from the jailer's grumbling that to get this bit of water, he had dragged his battered body and knelt all night, only to get half a bowl in return. On that final night, the wind was bone-chilling. I hugged my knees, staring at that faint glimmer of light. "Zhao Ming, I am scared." Heavy breathing came from the other side of the wall. He seemed to struggle to sit up, leaning closer. "Miss Gu, can you see that line of light above?" "I can see it," a wise elder from my hometown once said. "Even at the bottom of the deepest well, as long as you can still see the starlight, it means we have not been abandoned by heaven and earth, and still have unfinished business." He paused. "I, on this wall, carve number, though it may not bring vindication, but our right and wrong, merits and demerits, to be written solely by those in power. What you and I have done, we know in our hearts. This was his final appearance in my memory. As long as you can still see starlight, there are still things left undone. These words actually became the conviction that supported me through every day and night after my rebirth. The next afternoon, I arrived as promised. Zhao Ming was leaning by a mottled pillar, the morning light falling upon his gaunt profile. "So you did come, miss. The celestial signs yesterday were just as you said, but I am just a stray dog now. How can I possibly help you, miss?" I took a step forward, my gaze burning. "Zhao Ming. Once Lin Wanner changes her face and identity, there will no longer be a person named Zhao Ming in this world. The talent from your 10+ years of hard study, your ambition to help the world and bring peace to the people, will all vanish into thin air as you are pushed onto the execution ground and beheaded. Are you willing to accept that?" His hand hanging by his side slowly tightened. "What is more, if this doesn't work out, my end won't be much better than yours. We're grasshoppers tied to the same string. Aside from working together, there is no other way out." A long silence fell within the temple, with only the wail of the wind passing through the broken window. Finally, he raised his head and looked at me. "What should I do?" "I want you," I said, word by word, "to become my husband." Seeing his shocked expression, I continued, "And my husband will go to jail for you, this." He stared at me in shock. The imperial court is corrupt these days. Overturning the verdict is harder than climbing to heaven. I took a step forward. "But if you pose as Shen Wenyuan, with his identity as the only son of the Marquis of Wuning's estate, not only can you clear your name, but you can also secure a position in the imperial court and realize your ambition of serving the country and its people." I took out the disguise kit I had prepared. "As for that husband of mine who tried to harm me, letting him wait for the autumn execution in prison while wearing your face, wouldn't that be perfect?" Zhao Ming was silent for a long time. Finally, he lifted his gaze to me. "Even if the appearance can be made indistinguishable from the real one, how can we cover up flaws like mannerisms, speech, handwriting, and writing style?" "Perhaps it is truly fate," I said with a faint smile. "Not only are your voices 80% similar, but even your builds are almost the same. As for the handwriting," I took out a stack of letters and pushed it in front of him. "This is Shen Wenyuan's usual handwriting. With your scholarly talent, you'll surely be able to imitate it with a little practice." Seeing he was still doubtful, I added, "Shen Wenyuan has always lived in seclusion and rarely interacts with the capital's dignitaries. You just need to remember a few key points. He is used to using chopsticks with his left hand. He is afraid of the cold and dislikes iced drinks. And when talking with people, he has a habit of lightly tapping the tabletop. Young lady, for you to know even these details." Surprise flashed in Zhao Ming's eyes. We were husband and wife for 3 years, after all. Thinking about it now, it is truly disgusting. For the next few days, I'll claim to be ill and refuse visitors, which gives you time to get familiar with his mannerisms. When the time is right, dusk deepened outside the window. "I will make sure that those who should pay the price get what they deserve." Zhao Ming did as he was told, sitting upright before me and slowly closing his eyes. "From now on, this person, Zhao Ming, is at your disposal, miss. This face, you may sculpt it as you please." That night, the moon was dark and the wind was high. I personally cooked in the kitchen, stewing a bowl of calming and qi-replenishing soup, and served it to Shen Wenyuan, who was in the study, worrying about the safety of his white moonlight. "You've worked hard, husband. Have some soup and get some rest. You still have to run around for Miss Lin's affairs tomorrow." Shen Wenyuan suspected nothing, and perhaps even thought me quite virtuous, drinking every last drop of the soup. In less than the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. He slumped over the desk, fast asleep. I struggled to drag him onto the couch in the inner chamber. Looking at his unguarded sleeping face, I let out a cold sneer. I opened my cosmetic case, which I never part with. Inside wasn't rouge and powder, but all sorts of medicinal pastes, special clay, and tools as fine as hair. The true essence of the secret art of disguise was about to be revealed. I referenced the man's portrait on the wanted poster and began to meticulously sculpt his face, adjusting bone structure, changing skin tone, adding scars. Every step was executed with extreme precision. The process was a bit tedious. I even started humming a little tune. Husband, this face of yours is usually good enough to trick women. Now that it has been changed to look like an imperial fugitive, I wonder if that precious Wanner of yours would still pounce on you if she saw it. By the time the eastern sky turned fish-belly white, Shen Wenyuan's face had completely transformed into the likeness of Zhao Ming from the wanted poster. I examined it closely for a moment, then nodded in satisfaction. Then, I stuffed the unconscious new version of Shen Wenyuan into the unused woodshed in the backyard and quickly arranged the scene to look like a mess left after a struggle to hide. As the sky began to lighten, I faced the mirror and started working on my own face. It wasn't a disguise, but rather to make myself look panicked, with my hair slightly messy and my eyes red-rimmed. I took a deep breath, lifted my skirt, and stumbled out of the Shen Manor's main gate, shouting towards the county yamen with all my might and a sob in my voice. "Simone, help! There is an imperial fugitive who broke in." That cry shattered the tranquility of the early morning. Neighbors on both sides pushed open their windows to look, and pedestrians and vendors began to gather around. At the right moment, I collapsed limply onto the gatekeeper's shoulder, pointing a trembling hand toward the woodshed. That culprit. He looks exactly the same as the one on the wanted poster. He is hiding in the woodshed. The patrolling yamen runners rushed over upon hearing the news, and the head bailiff in the lead had sharp eyes. Hearing that a culprit had broken into the Shen household, he immediately led his men and charged into the courtyard. I clutched a silk handkerchief, supported by my maidservant, and followed behind the bailiffs, sobbing softly, while secretly counting the time in my head. After just a moment, shouts and sounds of a scuffle came from the woodshed, which were, of course, all one-sided actions from the yamen runners. Incapacitated by the knockout drug, Shen Wenyuan didn't even have the strength to struggle at this moment. "You must have been frightened, my lady," the head constable hurried back to report. "The culprit has been apprehended. He is out cold right now." I lightly patted my chest, still shaken. "Officer, did you get a clear look? Is it really the person from the portrait?" "Absolutely no mistake," the head constable said with certainty. "The scar on his forehead, the mole on his chin. They match the wanted poster perfectly, my lady. You've performed a great service." Two yamen runners dragged out the bound, imperially wanted criminal. The hemp rope cut deep into his flesh. A cloth gag was stuffed tightly in his mouth. Only his eyes were glaring fixedly at me, full of shock, anger, and disbelief. I took half a step back in panic, covering my face with my handkerchief. "Officer, please take him away quickly. Such a vicious criminal, I am frightened just looking at him." In the midst of this chaos, a clear voice rang out from behind me. "Wife, what has happened at home?" I looked back, only to see Shen Wenyuan, in a moon-white long robe, walking over quickly. Zhao Ming was flawlessly imitating that person's usual gentle and refined demeanor. I have to say, my craftsmanship truly lives up to its reputation. Worked through the night, the results are outstanding. I immediately rushed forward in a panic, tightly gripping his sleeve, with a choke in my voice. "Husband, where did you go last night? A villain broke into our home. It truly scared me to death." Zhao Ming lightly patted my back with a slightly unpracticed motion, yet his tone was full of concern. "Don't be afraid. I was appreciating tea and discussing poetry with a friend at a villa outside the city last night, and only returned this morning. I had no idea such a mishap had occurred at home." He turned to the bailiffs and cupped his hands in a salute. "Thank you for your trouble, sirs, for protecting my wife." The head bailiff hurriedly returned the salute. "Young Master Shen, you are too kind. This is our duty." since the culprit has been caught, we'll escort him back to the Yamen to await trial. Zhao Ming nodded slightly, his gaze casually sweeping over the bound, real Shen Wenyuan. For such a ruffian to dare to sneak into a private residence. Luckily, my wife was quick-witted. I hope you officers will interrogate him strictly. Upon hearing this, the real Shen Wenyuan began to struggle violently, glaring with bloodshot eyes at Zhao Ming, who wore his face, a whimper escaping his throat. I continued to put on a shaken and unsettled look, leaning against my husband's side and saying softly, "Thank you for your hard work, officers. Once things at home have settled down, I will be sure to prepare a gift and visit to express my gratitude." The bailiffs escorted away the constantly struggling, despair-filled real Shen Wenyuan, and the crowd of onlookers also gradually dispersed. I was just about to go back to my room with Zhao Ming to go over our script, when I saw Lin Wanner timidly coming out of the side room. She had obviously heard the commotion, but only dared to show her face after everyone had dispersed. "Brother Shen, what happened just now?" She looked towards Zhao Ming, the fake Shen Wenyuan, her face pale. Zhao Ming's knuckles instantly tightened. He stared at this woman who had ruined his reputation, and even his breathing grew a bit heavier. I quietly shifted my position, my wide sleeves hanging low, and gently pressed down on his trembling hand where others couldn't see. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he finally said in his usual tone of voice, "You must have been frightened, Wanner." I took the opportunity to step forward and divert her attention with a concerned tone. "The thief the constables just took away looked exactly like your fiancé Zhao Ming. It is strange. Why would he show up at our residence?" Lin Wanner lowered her head in a fluster. "I really don't know. I haven't even left the courtyard these days. Don't worry, Wanner." Zhao Ming had regained his composure. "Once the medicinal herbs are ready, I can change your appearance for you." I chimed in with a faint smile. "Don't worry, I'll make sure you get a new lease on life." As she left, Zhao Ming was still staring fixedly at her figure. I handed him a cup of tea and whispered through the rising steam, "Don't worry, she won't escape." The candlelight flickered as Zhao Ming and I sat facing each other by the window. He poured me a fresh cup of tea and finally asked the doubt in his heart, "Since you already know Lin Wanner is the main culprit, why not report her directly to the authorities?" "If I report it now," I traced the rim of my cup with my fingertip, "she'll be thrown directly onto death row. If she is allowed to meet Shen Wenyuan in prison, Shen Wenyuan knows many of my secrets, and it is inevitable that the two of them will see the flaws in my plan. Besides, I am still waiting to see the good show of them confronting each other in court." His brow furrowed slightly. "But what if they collude on their testimonies in court? That is why they have to confront each other in full public view. One wearing your face, one wearing a fake mask. Two people who think they're so clever tearing each other apart. In court, wouldn't a drama like that be much more satisfying than a simple conviction?" The candle flame popped, illuminating his look of sudden realization. "What is more?" I picked up the teacup. "How could simply letting her head roll do justice to all the suffering I've endured?" As the tea grew a little cool, I suddenly lowered my voice. "This morning, a servant came to report that someone has been lingering outside the manor recently. That person specifically appears when Lin Wanner is in the garden, and their actions are very suspicious." Zhao Ming's hand, which was holding the teapot, faltered slightly. "I suspect that neither you nor Shen Wenyuan are the ones she truly has in her heart. That figure peeking from the shadows might be the real reason she is willing to take such a risk. Just you wait and see." I looked out the window at the deep night. Soon, a third person will appear. In the following days, Zhao Ming and I, in this little world of the Shen mansion, actually acted out a semblance of a loving and respectful couple. Whenever I ate at the same table with him, or saw his silhouette as he read by the window, all sorts of things from my past life in prison would surface in my mind. Now, seeing him sitting peacefully in the spring light, his features were gentle and fine, like jade, and my reflection in the tea showed my hair like clouds, and my silk dress clean. We were no longer those two people in prison with disheveled hair and dirty faces, about to die. I actually felt my eyes grow hot. But beneath the tranquility, I still had to continue seeking the truth. These past few days, I deliberately relaxed the watch over Lynn Warner. Late one night, just as expected, she hiked up her skirt and slipped out the back door. I silently followed her and saw her expertly turn into a dark alley, throwing herself into the arms of a man dressed as a scholar. "Cousin." She stuffed a bag of silver into his hands. "This is enough for you to go to the capital for the imperial exam." The scholar weighed the pouch in his hand, his tone flippant. "Did that stupid couple from the Shen mansion really believe your story?" In the moonlight, Lynn Warner smiled smugly. "Not only did they believe it, that stupid woman Gu Qingcheng even agreed to help me with the art of disguise after it is done." I hid in the shadow of the parasol tree, my fingernails digging deep into the trunk. The pain of wood splinters piercing my palm made me even more clear-headed. So, from the very beginning, the cousin she spoke of was the real reason she took such a risk. All the clues finally came together to form the complete truth. Zhao Ming and I also felt a rare sense of ease. This morning, he returned, covered in morning dew, and placed an oil paper package on the stone table. Passing by the morning market, I saw a lot of people queuing to buy sugar cakes. The paper package was unfolded, and a sweet fragrance filled the air. I picked up a piece. The amber-colored syrup was slowly flowing, cooked, just the way I like it best. "It is strange, though," he frowned slightly. "I was originally going to take another road, but as if by some strange impulse, I turned into that alley. When I saw these sugar cakes, I just felt that you would definitely like them." My fingertips trembled slightly. In my past life, in prison, I once described to him through a crack in the wall. Li Ji's sugar cakes in the south of the city require the sugar to be boiled until it can be pulled into threads, and must be taken out of the pot 3/4 of an hour before the Chen hour to be crispy. When I was little, I'd always pester Daddy to buy them for me. I lowered my head and bit into the crispy crust, letting the syrup get all over my hands. He looked at my messy state, a faint smile spreading in his eyes. "If you don't mind, miss, I'll bring them for you every day from now on." The morning light fell on his smiling eyelashes, and I suddenly began to covet this ordinary morning. On this day, news that the Yamen was holding court arrived with the faint morning light. I was trimming the last crooked branch of the orchid grass. "It is time to meet this good husband of mine," Zhao Ming whispered in my ear. "If he reveals his identity in court, Fei, even if he says it, who would believe him?" The scissor blades cleanly snipped off the overly long root hairs. "Don't forget, we still have a big gift to give him." Fei, the court drum sounded 3 times, and I stepped into the courtroom side by side with my husband. Kneeling in the hall, Shen Wenyuan abruptly raised his head and yelled hoarsely, "Your Honor, this student is the real Shen Wenyuan." It was this venomous woman Gu Qingcheng and her lover beside her who conspired to frame me. The prefect's brows furrowed, his gaze darting back and forth between us. I feigned a look of panic at the right moment, taking delicate steps to hide behind Zhao Ming. Zhao Ming immediately took a step forward, his wide sleeves shielding me completely, and retorted in a deep voice, "You say you are Shen Wenyuan, then who am I?" Still trying to argue, the prefect scolded sharply, then immediately asked, "Where is Lin Warner now?" "It has nothing to do with Warner," Shen Wenyuan blurted out without thinking. "It is all Zhao Ming's fault. It was Zhao Ming who coerced her." The prefect raised an eyebrow meaningfully and said slowly, Aren't you Zhao Ming?" Shen Wenyuan looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. His whole body frozen on the spot, lips trembling, only able to repeatedly murmur, "I am not. I am not." I slowly walked forward, stopped a step away from him, and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. "Such deep love and devotion. My husband. It is a pity that while you are here, risking life and limb for her, she, at this very moment." I paused deliberately, watching his panicked expression with satisfaction. Is taking the banknotes I gave her and preparing to elope with her real cousin. You are lying. His eyes were wide with fury, veins bulging on his neck. Whether I am lying or not, I lightly dusted my sleeves. You know it perfectly well in your heart. The prefect was already impatient and slammed his gavel down heavily. Since you refuse to confess, bring on the torture. Wait. My clear voice made the bailiffs pause. Under the prefect's confused gaze, I gave a graceful bow. Your Honor, since this criminal insists he is Shen Wenyuan, why not let me ask him a few questions? If he can't answer, his lie will expose itself. The prefect nodded his approval. I walked over to Shen Wenyuan, looking down at his pathetic appearance. You claim to be my husband. So let me ask you, on our wedding day, what special medicinal herb was added to our nuptial wine? Shen Wenyuan opened his mouth, but couldn't answer. The heirloom my mother left me. What style was the pair of jade bracelets? Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. One last question. I gently lifted my hand, revealing a faint scar on my wrist. How did I get this scar? Shen Wenyuan's face was ashen. Of course he doesn't know this scar is from my past life in prison, caused by me harming myself with a piece of broken porcelain. And in this life, I surprisingly carry this mark. Can't answer, I sneered. Because the answers to these questions are only known to the real Shen Wenyuan. Turning to face the prefect, I said in a loud voice, My lord, please see clearly, this scoundrel can't even answer these small, everyday matters. How could he possibly be my husband? He is clearly an impostor with malicious intentions. No, it is not like that, Shen Wenyuan struggled frantically. She set me up, Your Honor. Ina. The prefect flew into a rage. The witness and material evidence are all here, and you still dare to argue. Drag him away and give him 50 heavy strokes of the paddle. 2 bailiffs responded and stepped forward, seizing Shen Wenyuan from the left and right and dragging him towards the torture chamber. Let go of me. I am Shen Wenyuan. I really am Shen Wenyuan. His roars echoed in the courtroom, but all they earned him was the prefect's cold wave of the hand. As he passed by me, he suddenly struggled with all his might, his bloodshot eyes staring deadly at me. You venomous woman. You won't die a good death. Wanner will definitely avenge me. I leaned forward slightly, covering my lips with a silk handkerchief, my voice as gentle as water. Husband, rest assured. After you've been executed, I will personally send her down to keep you company. He still wanted to curse, but was roughly dragged away by the bailiffs. Soon, the sound of flesh splitting open came from the direction of the torture chamber, mixed with his shrill, miserable screams. Zhao Ming impassively stepped sideways, blocking my view of the torture chamber. I shook my head at him, and instead took a step forward, listening intently to every sound of the rod falling. So melodious, more lingering than the spring drizzle, more pleasing to the ear than the silk and bamboo music of Zhongyan. The blood that wasn't fully shed on the execution ground in my past life seemed to have transformed into these miserable screams at this moment. I caressed the jade bracelet on my wrist. This was the dowry my mother left me, taken by Lin Wanner in my past life. And in this life, I got it back early. My lady, if you are feeling unwell, you may return to your residence to rest first. The prefect was being uncharacteristically considerate. I curtsied and said, Thank you for your consideration, Your Honor. It is just that this scoundrel has brought turmoil to my household, and I must watch him be brought to justice with my own eyes. The miserable screams inside the torture chamber gradually grew faint, and a yamen runner came out to report. Your Honor, the prisoner has fainted. Shall we continue the torture? Just as the prefect was about to speak, I interjected in a soft voice. Your Honor, this scoundrel was so full of vigor when he falsely accused me just now. How could he be so unable to withstand a beating? Could it be that he is deliberately feigning unconsciousness, trying to get away with it? Hearing this, the prefect's face immediately darkened. Splash him awake with cold water. Continue the interrogation. When Shen Wenyuan was dragged out again, he had become a bloody man. I stared at this gruesome scene. How satisfying, so incredibly satisfying. In the past few days, I have performed a disguise technique on Lin Wanner. She caressed her unfamiliar eyebrows and eyes in the mirror, an unconcealable smugness at the corners of her mouth. This idiot still doesn't know that her happiness has come too soon. On the day the deed is done, she will have her time to cry. Zhao Ming has gradually gotten used to his identity as the young master of the Shen residence. Every morning, he would come to my courtyard to have breakfast together. That day, when he was serving me food, his sleeve cuff accidentally got stained with kanji, and I subconsciously took out a silk handkerchief and handed it to him. Thank you. His fingertips trembled slightly as he took it. Only then did I remember that this silk handkerchief embroidered with pear blossoms was an old thing. In my past life in prison, he once said to me through a crack in the wall, "If there is a chance, I'd really love to see the magnificent sight of pear blossoms you speak of." Now the pear blossoms have long since withered, but this handkerchief has unexpectedly stirred up memories of the past. In the evening we sat opposite each other in the study, he copying Shen Wenyuan's calligraphy, while I went through the Manor's account books. The sunset glow filtered through the window lattice, casting dappled light on his side profile. For a moment he looked up, our eyes met, and then we both looked away as if nothing had happened. Until dusk deepened, I watched his back as he organized the scrolls. "What are you looking at?" he asked, turning back. I lowered my gaze and smiled softly. "Just watching the sunset. It is perfect. And besides, for some things, it is time." The night was as black as ink, and I stepped into the death row cell alone. The jailer took the silver and respectfully retreated to a distance. Shen Wenyuan was chained to the corner of the wall, his prison uniform soaked through with fresh blood. He struggled to raise his head, and upon recognizing me under the dim yellow oil lamp, a bone-deep hatred erupted in his eyes. "Vicious woman, you'll die a horrible death." Carrying a black lacquered food box, I gracefully crouched down in front of him and laid out the exquisite pastries on the ground one by one. "My dear husband," my voice was as gentle as water, "this is your favorite osmanthus cake." He spat fiercely, and bloody foam mixed with spittle splattered onto the pastry. Unfazed, I picked up a piece and savored it delicately. "I haven't forgotten what I promised you. A few days ago, I already gave Miss Lin a new face. Guess where she is now?" I wiped the corner of my lips. "The Yueli Inn in the west of the city. Heaven room number 3. Right now she is with that cousin of hers." "Nonsense," he interrupted hoarsely. "Whether it is nonsense or not, don't you know full well?" I took a step closer. "She was always going on about all the good things about her cousin, urging you to send me to my grave. Did you really never notice these clues, Shen Wenyuan? You fancy yourself so clever, but in reality, from start to finish, you've been living in a play meticulously crafted by that couple, you and Zhao Ming. One a stepping stone, the other a scapegoat, are both just pitiful fools they have in the palm of their hands." His face instantly turned ashen white. "Number, impossible. Really impossible." I lightly tapped the iron chains on his wrist with my fingertip. "Think carefully. Did she ever treat you with sincerity? Where did all that private money end up? Those vows of eternal love, was there ever any proof left behind?" I looked at his violently trembling lips and said word by word, "Shen Wenyuan, you thought you were the player, but in reality, you are worse than a pawn. You gambled your life for her. Yet while she was intimate with you, she was plotting how to use your corpse to pave their path to freedom." Aha! He frantically smashed his head against the wall. Fresh blood mixed with tears trickled down. I watched coldly from the side, only speaking softly when he was exhausted. "There is another interesting little thing. When I disguised myself today, I planted a mechanism behind her ear. When she gets emotional," I admired his terrified expression and gave a charming smile, That face you love so much will start from behind the ear and fester and ooze pus, inch by inch. Vicious woman. He roared and struggled, the iron chains rattling. I stood up and brushed my skirt. Enjoy it, Lord Fay, Imperial Criminal Fay. As I turned to leave, his despairing wails echoed in the prison. To kill a person and crush their spirit. It is nothing more than this. Next, it is Lin Wanner and that cousin of hers' turn. Before I even made a move, Zhao Ming brought some delightful news. Lin Wanner has been caught. So she argued with that cousin at the inn this morning, and in her agitation, the disguise behind her ear indeed began to fester. The waiter saw her face suddenly become twisted and terrifying and was so scared he scrambled and crawled to report to the authorities. When the Yamen runners arrived, she was frantically scratching her own face, and that lover of hers, upon seeing this, actually abandoned her and fled, falling from the second floor of the inn in his panic and dying on the spot. She confessed very quickly, Zhao Ming said calmly. She pushed all the blame onto Shen Wenyuan. But it was actually me, Zhao Ming, and that dead cousin. I clapped lightly and smiled. Well, this saves us a lot of trouble. But Zhao Ming frowned slightly. For us to frame Shen Wenyuan like this, isn't it a bit too much? I am using his identity yet. I am pushing him to his death. Under the candlelight, a faint glimmer of guilt surfaced in his eyes. This man, who had grown up reading the books of sages and saints, still adhered to the gentleman's code in his very bones, even after suffering injustice. I gently pressed the back of his slightly cool hand. Do you believe in reincarnation and retribution? Before he could answer, I continued. All I can say is everything that is happening now is the retribution they deserve. In this dog-eat-dog world, a sense of morality is the most useless burden. I placed the teacup steadily into the palm of his hand. We are alive, not to be good people, but to make those who should pay the price, pay the price. The trial of Lin Wanner came sooner than expected. The courtroom was solemn, and I stood side by side with Zhao Ming. Lin Wanner's face was wrapped in gauze, and the moment she saw me, she shrieked sharply. Vicious woman, what in the world did you do to my face? I curtsied slightly, my expression composed. I am a complete stranger to you, my lady. Why do you say such things? She then turned to glare angrily at Zhao Ming, who was disguised as Shen Wenyuan, her voice trembling. You actually betrayed me. Zhao Ming's brows furrowed slightly, his tone distant. You are mistaken, miss. I have never had any dealings with you. Just then, Shen Wenyuan, wearing Zhao Ming's face, was brought into the hall under guard. Seeing this, Lin Wanner immediately identified him through her tears. Your Honor, please see the truth. It was all Zhao Ming's doing, and my cousin. They forced me to do it. The real Shen Wenyuan stumbled to his knees, his burning gaze locked on Lin Wanner, his voice hoarse. Warn, we've been childhood sweethearts for over 10 years. I abandoned my wife and child for you. I took desperate risks for you, and now you are going to just abandon me? Lin Wanner was stunned for a moment. Then she violently tore the gauze from her face, revealing her festering features, and shrieked at him. Zhao Ming, stop spouting nonsense. I've only known you for 3 months. What is all this about being childhood sweethearts? She turned to the prefect, sobbing uncontrollably. My lord, please judge clearly. This Zhao Ming is clearly trying to drag me down with him. Shen Wenyuan's whole body shook violently. Only then did he realize with a shock that his face had been changed. He crawled forward desperately, his shackles clanking. Wan, look closely. It is me. I am Wenyuan. The name, Wenyuan, made Lin Wanner suddenly turn her head, looking mournfully at Zhao Ming, who was disguised as Shen Wenyuan. Brother Shen, say something. I was framed by them. Zhao Ming's expression was indifferent, and he gave a slight bow with cupped hands. Perhaps I met you once in our childhood, miss, but we have had no contact over all these years, so I really don't know what you are talking about. Lin Wanner looked as if she had been struck by lightning and suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. Shen Wenyuan, you goddamn bastard. Back when we were in bed, didn't you swear you'd divorce your wife and marry me? Did you think I truly loved you? It was only because your Shen family still had some use. These words left the disguised Zhao Ming still composed, but it hit the real Shen Wenyuan like a blow to the head. Lin Wanner, for you, I threw away my future, bore a bad reputation, and even murdered my first wife. And for what? You played me for a fool. Lin Wanner was so frightened by his terrifying aura that she kept backing away. Number. Shen Wenyuan suddenly lunged, grabbing her by the neck. I'll kill you. The bailiffs hurriedly went forward to stop him, and it took 4 or 5 people to finally restrain him. He was still struggling and roaring, his eyes as red as blood. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Lin Wanner, I curse you to never be reincarnated for all eternity. The prefect slammed down the gavel heavily. Take the prisoner away. As Shen Wenyuan was dragged out of the courtroom, he was still roaring hoarsely. Silence, the prefect slammed his gavel. Lin Wanner and Zhao Ming conspired to do evil. The evidence is conclusive. I sentence Zhao Ming to be beheaded after autumn. Lin Wanner to be exiled 3,000 li, never to return to the capital for all eternity. I stood below in the court, looking at the man and woman who had killed me in my past life. Won was about to be beheaded. The other's face was completely ruined, and she was about to suffer endless torment in a bitter, cold land. This ending, it couldn't be better. It seemed like everything had settled. But whenever I saw Zhao Ming standing by the window in his brocade robe, I always felt he was like a bird trapped in a golden cage. The comfortable life in the Shen residence, on the contrary, made him look even thinner than when he was in the ruined temple. Am I being too selfish? I finally couldn't help but ask. He was grinding ink for me, and upon hearing my words, his wrist paused. Miss Gu, you have given me a new life. Never mind just taking on someone else's identity. Even if I had to go through fire and water, I, Zhao, would do so willingly. Gazing at his slightly furrowed brow as he practiced calligraphy, I suddenly realized, even with the cozy candlelight and fragrant tea at this moment, in the eyes of the world, he is still an imperial criminal who has already been executed. In the tea houses and taverns, his list of crimes is still being told. And on the faded wanted poster at the city gate, his name is still firmly nailed. For the past 3 months, he has worn Shen Wenyuan's cloud-patterned brocade robes, used Shen Wenyuan's jade seal, and attended Shen Wenyuan's poetry gatherings. Such wealth and glory is perhaps an opportunity others could only dream of. But for a noble and upright gentleman like Zhao Ming, every call of Young Master Shen is a death by 1,000 cuts, piercing his heart and bone. For the next half-year, I rushed between the Ministry of Justice and various government offices day and night. Finally, on the day of the first snow, a notice was posted before the vermilion gates of the Ministry of Justice, announcing that the name of the already executed Zhao Ming was cleared. For this single sheet of paper declaring his innocence, I spent almost my entire dowry and exhausted all my connections. Yet, I felt it was worth it. The following spring, news that Shen Wenyuan had died from an illness spread throughout the capital. On the day of the funeral, Zhao Ming finally shed all his disguises, standing under a willow tree with his own handsome face. I reached out and brushed the willow catkins from his shoulder. From today on, you are Zhao Shujuo, of a collateral branch of the Zhao family. Your parents are both deceased, and you've come to the capital to seek refuge with relatives. I specially chose the 2 characters Shoujuo, only because in my past life in prison, the voice that came through the crack in the wall once said, "My name is Zhao Ming, courtesy name Shoujuo." He was slightly taken aback. Then he understood my arrangement. This time, he could finally be himself openly and with dignity. 3 years later at the Chuanglin banquet, the new Tan Hualang was completely surrounded. I stood under the magnolia tree, watching as he finished dealing with the last group of congratulating officials and strode quickly towards me. "Sorry to have kept you waiting, miss." His breath was still unsteady as he took out an oil paper package from his sleeve. As he opened it, the sweet fragrance of sugar-roasted chestnuts filled the air, still carrying the warmth from Granny Wong's stove in the south of the city. It was the last portion, lucky it is not cold yet. The night breeze blew past his jinchi cap, and I picked off a fallen flower for him. How about we set off for Jiangyan tomorrow? I hear the pear blossoms in Gusu are about to bloom.